Welcome to the latest edition of Cageside Speaks. My name is 14 Fitzpatrick, and after a crazy month in wrestling, we are back to talk about WWE's first Raw exclusive pay-per-view, Clash of Champions, formerly known as Night of Champions. Although, to us here on the panel on Cageside Speaks, there is only one word that could describe this pay-per-view: confusion. It was a very confusing... The wrestling was good, but the booking was very questionable in some segments and completely bonkers in others. So we brought together a group of Cagesiders to talk about this show, starting with making his third appearance, Haruki.
Hello.
Also making his third appearance is Chris.
All right, guys, here's the deal. If you can make it through the whole podcast without comparing something Raw does wrong with something SmackDown does right, you get 50 bonus points, and I'll bake you a batch of cookies. Deal?
Ooh, I'm holding you to that.
Oh.
All right, awesome.
And finally making another appearance is Kevin Green.
Hey, guys. What's going on?
Now, we were supposed to be joined by Ice Storm today for this edition of Speaks, but unfortunately, due to an accident that he had last week, he is not able to attend with us. So keep your thoughts and prayers with him, because he's going to have to go through MRI this week to check on some stuff.
Godspeed.
Yeah. Heal up fast, man.
Now, he personally attended Clash of Champions, and I want to give out his thoughts that he sent off on the Google chat app, which is he enjoyed the show for the most part. It was confusing, and he enjoyed the Cruiserweight segment the most, but the rest of the show was very medium as far as things. But we'll get to the Cruiserweight segments after we talk about the tag match. Is anybody else confused by the booking of the tag division these days? Because it seems to me that they're trying to make this comedy team, the New Day, the most dominant force in sports entertainment, and yet I don't feel nothing. And then, of course, they've also managed to marginalize the club, which is Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, and I don't know what to think of this match. It was very quick. It was over in a flash. And we'll start with Haruki.
All right. Well, first of all, I love the match. I thought that the way that they booked it was unique for a WWE tag match, in that they had the club come out no nonsense against these, joking, goofy guys, and essentially the New Day had to weather that initial storm that they did. And the Gallows and Anderson were throwing out all kinds of cool offense, just unique, new stuff that you don't typically see. And I thought that was awesome. And then when it came to the finish, you could look at it in the sense of, well, New Day, they were up against it, so they needed that extra bit of interference, per se, to get past them. And that would be okay if maybe they booked this program to Hell in a Cell, where Gallows and Anderson would finally take the titles off them. But with the repeat of the program on Raw the night after, it doesn't seem like they're going that way. So with that being said, I do agree that it kind of marginalizes Gallows and Anderson. That makes me sad, because I loved how they were presented in the Clash of Champions match in of itself. So all in all, I thought it was a fun match. I thought, especially for a WWE Tag Team match, it kind of abstracted. But with that being said, it's kind of sad in the outcome for me.
I mean, it's very clear to me that they're trying to beat Demolition's 400-plus days as tag champs with the New Day, which, okay, it's the New Day. And, Kevin, I remember that you don't really like the New Day very much. What are your thoughts on this match?
I thought it was a good match. I'm a fan of the New Day, but I just feel like the gimmick is running a little stale now. But they have T-shirts and booties to sell, so keep the money train. But the characters are doing heelish things. They're at right now. They're trying to do a turn.
So you think the New Day is going to be doing a turn here soon?
Hopefully.
Okay. Okay.
mic issues, it looks like.
It looks like Kevin here is having some mic issues. So, Chris, what are your thoughts on this match?
I went into this, much like a lot of people, expecting that this was going to be the night when New Day finally dropped the titles to Gallows and Anderson. I mean, it seemed like this was the correct opportunity. They're at a point right now where New Day is held the titles for so long that the titles have become almost meaningless as a prize. So they need to do something to reinvigorate their meaning in the division, because the division is populated by a lot of teams that are basically comedy relief teams. I mean, I hate to say it, but Enzo and Cass, for all that they do to get the crowd fired up, they are a comedy relief team. The Shining Stars, their gimmick is a comedy relief gimmick, even as heels. New Day, obviously, comedy team. And now they're presenting them as they're trying to present them as the most dominant tag team in WWE history. And I think you hit it right on the button, Fizzy, when you said at the beginning that this is the most dominant team in sports entertainment. Vince is looking at this in the entertainment aspect, because the New Day, even if they are making the titles kind of worthless, they are an entertaining team. So he's valuing the entertainment over the competitive aspect. So basically what we have here is a situation where if New Day lost the titles, they would still be over very clearly, but the titles would be able to get some new meaning, and they would be able to kind of revitalize the division a little bit, maybe set up some alternative competitors at the top. Instead, we have a very clear situation where New Day is being booked to beat Demolition's record. They basically have to get through Hell in a Cell and Survivor Series, and on December 7th, a random Wednesday in December, they're going to beat Demolition's record. That will be day 479 for them. And to be honest, I'm really kind of disappointed with the fact that they're booking New Day as the top team at the expense of everybody else. We've talked a lot about other competitors in the WWE being booked at the top at the expense of others, and that's what's happening here at New Day. The most dominant team in the history of NJPW, Gallows and Anderson, were brought in and have been made to look like chumps. And they've lost now, I think, 4 matches for the title at this point since they came in. And they were brought in with all this, with all this big buzz, all this heraldry, and now they've just been made to look like idiots. And I think that's a mistake, because when New Day finally does drop the titles, which I expect will take place at TLC, it's just going to be completely worthless. It's going to be like, okay, well, they got the record and now they're done. And what was even the point of having them break the record if that's how they're going to be booked?
It appears that I think that TLC is a SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view, so they might not be dropping the titles then.
Oh, okay. I thought TLC was going to be the Raw pay-per-view, but that actually makes me feel better, because I thought that Raw was getting all the gimmick type pay-per-views, and SmackDown was going to just have the standards. So if SmackDown gets TLC, that actually works out better. So whichever pay-per-view Raw has in December, I guess it'll be where they drop it.
One thing I'd like to add real fast is that, building off that point, I don't even know who they're going to use to take the titles off them if it's not going to be Gallows and Anderson, because Shining Stars aren't up there. They're not going to turn Enzo and Cass. I guess they could make the oddball tag team of Cesaro and Sheamus champ, but are they going to stick around, for 3 months? So it's strange all around. And then on top of that, do you want to make one of your longest reigning WWE tag team champs of all time lose to a thrown together, mismatched, disgruntled tag team? So all in all, it is a little bit odd, but willing to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people say say to me, why can't they just book the match as a face versus face match where they drop the titles to Enzo and Cass? And storyline wise, that makes absolutely zero sense. It would have made sense when Enzo and Cass debuted and the New Day were still acting like heels, but now that the New Day is fully turned face, even with the cheating to win that they had on Sunday at Clash of Champions, it really doesn't make sense to have them drop the titles to Enzo and Cass and to do it as a face versus face match.
Yeah, I mean, because the problem is that Enzo and Cass are, to me, really unlikable, and the New Day have been obnoxious, and they used the Francesca to win the tag title match at the pay-per-view, as you said, and really, there is a lot of confusing stuff going on here, because I would prefer if the Shining Stars got raised up, because I like the Shining Stars. I like their, con artist timeshare Puerto Rico gimmick.
I like that too.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see if they go over Enzo and Cass in the feud. Maybe that'll set them up to win the titles. But I think that would also kind of not necessarily spit in the face of the idea of the new era, but it would certainly not give credence to them observing the new era as a thing of importance. Because I mean, Primo and Epico have been around for over a decade at this point. It would make more sense to have somebody who's a newer tag team get it.
Maybe you have the same situation over. Technically, you have the same situation over at SmackDown with Slater and Rhino being the tag champs, and the first opponents are the Usos.
Yeah, but the Usos are also freshened up by the fact that they just turned heel. So that's it's in a lot of ways it might as well just be a whole new team, because this is a side of the Usos that we've never seen before.
Yes, the very bad man side of the Usos. I'm just waiting for them to run somebody over with a car like dear old dad.
Indeed.
So afterwards, that match was the number one sort of match, which was for the Cruiserweight Championship. Now, they reintroduced the Cruiserweight Championship at the Cruiserweight Classic event, and it was won by TJ Perkins. He faced off against what appears to be a hobo that sits on the curb of a convenience store and smokes his questionable substances.
Or
sells his questionable substances.
Yeah.
And apparently they dragged this guy named Brian Kendrick out to this match, and I thought he was going to stab TJ Perkins, grab whatever money Perkins had on him, and try and get his fix for the week.
Yeah, this new look for Kendrick is not doing him any favors, I gotta say.
I mean, him and Lawler had the same jacket on.
Yeah. He's like, it's funny because like I think he didn't have very long hair until recently. So if he had just kept his hair short, he would have had a much better look going in. But oh well.
So what are our thoughts on this match? Because I thought that it was okay, but I really couldn't root for anyone in this match. It was really a heel versus heel match because Perkins had established himself as a heel on the CWC, and Kendrick had this sort of heroic sort of last chance run going on as a babyface, but then they decided, let's go with the heel gimmick for Kendrick, and so it's heel versus heel. We'll start off with Chris.
I like TJ Perkins. I like his style. I like the fact that he is not your typical kind of cruiserweight that you'd expect to see when you first hear the term cruiserweight. He doesn't do as much high-flying stuff. He's very much a submission-based, mat-based wrestler, and I like that is the style that they opted to go with for the first cruiserweight champion, because I think that if they'd put it on somebody like a Rich Swann or a Grand Metalik, it would have been a case of, they're just giving it to the guy who does the most flippy shit. But that being said, I understand why they went with Brian Kendrick as his first opponent. They want name recognition. They want to be able to bring in somebody who, fans that were around during his tag team run with London, they're going to want to bring those people in to see how he's still doing. So I get that, but I think that they could have done a lot better to bring in one of the other new guys, like a Cedric Alexander or a Rich Swann, to be the first opponent, because it just would make it feel like they really do value showing off all of the different styles of cruiserweight wrestling, because Perkins and Kendrick, they both wrestle in very much the same way. They're both mat-based, submission-based wrestlers. And it's very hard-striking, hard-hitting offense, not a whole lot of jumping around and flying around. The match itself, I thought, was a fairly good match. Everybody got their, both competitors got their spots and they got to show what their specialties are. They emphasized the knee bar just as much as they did during the CWC, and really established Perkins as dangerous for being able to get that in off of basically any setup. So that made sense, and it was good to make sure that he won, rather than immediately throwing the title onto somebody else. But I agree with you, Fizzy, that it was an okay match, but it wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything to write home about. This was not on the same level as, say, Ibushi Alexander or Gargano Ciampa from the CWC, or even the story that they sold during Perkins' match with Rich Swann in the CWC. Like, they didn't sell the story between Perkins and Kendrick very well on commentary. They could have done a better job of that to really establish some backstory to this, and maybe build some sympathy for Perkins as the guy who was just coming up and got his start because of Kendrick, and now Kendrick is trying to take his biggest accomplishment away from him. I think that would have made the match better if commentary had brought that aspect of things into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you there. So, Haruki, what are your thoughts on this match?
So again, I tend to agree. It was just very okay. I know a lot of people were into it, and I don't want to take away if they were. For me, Perkins is just kind of the middle ground in everything when it came to the CWC. He's not the worst promo, but he can talk, and English is his native language. He's not the best in-ring worker, but he has this cool submission-based wrestling. I guess this is all subjective, but for me, he just kind of represents the middle ground in all these aspects, and he was a very safe choice for the first champion. I agree in terms of Kendrick maybe not being the best for the first one, because I feel like for your first Cruiserweight match on a pay-per-view, you need to really come out with a bang and get something that really draws people in, per se, and there were a number of matches, as Chris alluded to, on the Cruiserweight Classic itself that outdid this pay-per-view match. I thought Perkins' entrance with the video game stuff was neat. I think that's a really cool wrinkle. I'm not a fan of the dabbing, but I've seen people say he's making it cool, so, there's that. And, the wrinkles are appreciated. All in all, I would say maybe not the best step, in my opinion, for the Cruiserweights to start on Raw, because there was the nice fatal four-way, but then at the pay-per-view, it just kind of fell flat. So we'll see where it goes from here. But they seem intent on running this Kendrick-Perkins program through. So,
yeah, I mean, the problem is that Perkins doesn't feel like a sympathetic babyface, and
I agree.
Kendrick is just there. He's a good heel, but Kevin. So, what were your thoughts on the match?
I thought it was a pretty good match. I think they were just playing it safe, given to all these, freak injuries. So I didn't think they really wanted to dial it up. I think they want to save it for the Monday Night Raw matches. As you see there, they're more the spots on the Monday Night show are more high spots than on the pay-per-views. But I think Brian Kendrick's a pretty good opponent for TJ. I mean, he's out of all of the people in the Cruiserweight Classic, he had the most, I would say, charisma that could cross over and, bring the young kids in and whatnot with the dancing and the video game stuff. And, but I think he's a pretty safe choice to be the first guy. And, Brian Kendrick has history in the company. So, there's a little built-in backstory. And I kind of liked his, I don't really like his look. He looks like, I don't know, like he could be in Raven's Flock back in the day or something like that. But it was a pretty good match, and I'm just gonna give the Cruiserweight thing some time. Just get some more matches in. So I'm not gonna really judge them so hard yet. They're just starting.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, basically, we have to have a wait-and-see approach with the Cruiserweights. I know it could go, from 0 to horrifically bad in, 60 seconds, knowing WWE, but, funny thing that you mentioned Nitro, because this next segment, in fact, the rest of the show, very much felt like a WCW Nitro.
Yeah, Raw's Nitro.
Yeah. Or a
It's SmackDown and Raw.
or a WCW pay-per-view, because we have here probably the match that has gotten the most amount of complaints out of any match. And it's hard to believe because it's a Cesaro-Sheamus match. Here's the setup. Cesaro and Sheamus got put into a best-of-7 series match by our deranged general manager who worships the evil known as Santa Claus, Mick Foley.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, there was going to be some golden championship opportunity at the end if these two managed to somehow beat one another in this best-of-7 series. At first, Sheamus looked like he was going to be winning, but then Cesaro mounted a comeback over the next several matches to tie it up at 3 wins apiece. The blow-off match was for here at Clash of Champions, and we were going to finally see who was going to get that unique championship opportunity. And we have found out that Dario Cueto is far more trustworthy than Mick Foley is when it comes to championship opportunities, apparently, because this match went to a countout. So there was no decisive winner. And on the very next Raw...
It wasn't even a countout. It was
Foley,
a medical stoppage was actually what the technical ending was.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a medical stoppage, count out, that they said on the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And on the very next Raw, Mick Foley says, "Oh, I'm pairing you up as a tag team."
Yeah, that was terrible. But they're a pretty good tag team, though. Could be.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
I don't know. Like, here's my thing, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but this best-of-7 series has been the best work that I've seen Sheamus put in forever. He was in that program with Roman, and then he was in the League of Nations, and he just looked like crap. And now that he's in this program with Cesaro, he has looked absolutely fantastic for this stage of his career. But to do this, to now make it so that you have to get along and fight together for what is essentially the least valuable championship on the whole show, makes absolutely no sense to me. And I don't understand what story they're trying to tell with Mick Foley. I actually wrote a fan post about why I think there was a much better choice for GM of Monday Night Raw, which is a whole different story entirely. But whatever they're trying to do with Foley, it's not working, and they need to find a way to either pull him out or change course as quickly as possible, because his role in this was bad. His role in most of the things that he's been involved with so far has been bad. And whatever it is that they're going to try and do with the Cesaro-Sheamus tag team, I have a feeling is just going to fall flat, which is a huge disservice to two guys who basically have put on some of the best matches that we've seen on Raw for the past month, and put what was the best match of the pay-per-view, discounting the finish.
Yeah. Yeah, discounting the finish, this was probably the best match on the card, or at least the least aggravating until the finish.
Mm-hmm.
Which was horrifically bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, Haruki, what were your thoughts on this match?
Well, if I'm going to give a compliment to anything about it, I suppose it was unexpected. As soon as Sheamus went up 3-0, everybody thought Cesaro's winning 4 straight and he's winning this. So if nothing else, there was that. I think, honestly, the thing that made me most upset about how they finished it all was when Cesaro got back in the ring and he said, I'm ready to go. If they had just done it where both of them were just completely out of it, and then they were both just taken out, that would at least make a little bit more sense. But if Cesaro's back out there and Sheamus is at least standing, I suppose, I don't know, it's a little bit of a cop-out, especially when all the stuff that preceded it was so good. Mm-hmm. Now, with that being said, the rationale doesn't make any sense from Foley's, from a rational thinking person's point of view. If we want to take this serious, what if Adam Silver, he saw how well LeBron James and Steph Curry did for their respective teams in the finals, and he's like, you know what? No. You guys don't get to face each other anymore. You guys are teaming up. Adam Silver forces a trade between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors, bringing him over because he just has to see them team up after how well they went after each other. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever from a rational thinking human's point of view. From a business point of view, too, I mean, Like, let's pretend that he's just trying to make the most money here. Everybody's looking at this match and they're thinking, wow, these guys are amazing. It'd be awesome to see one of these guys that worked that hard for a title shot get to face off for the title, especially when it's against a guy like Kevin Owens, who's for all intents and purposes always been, how can I put this? Like, he's needed that extra boost per se to get to where he needs to be. Well, now he's going to face a guy that has nothing to lose, that just went through hell to get a title shot. So I suppose it just doesn't make sense, and that's what frustrates me. And so evidently I can kiss Mick Foley's arse from his tweet, but I don't know. It's frustrating for me because you get really invested in something when it's awesome, and then it just falls off a cliff.
Okay, so that's really cool. That was kind of an impression of Tanya there, rookie. Good job there, man. I give that like an 8.5 on the Tanya bomb scale. So, Kevin, what were your thoughts on this match?
Oh, I thought it was a pretty good match. I felt like I didn't like the finish, like the rest of you guys, medical stoppage. You know, give me a time limit expiration, or give me a double count out or something. You know, so it's to set up a last man standing type of sudden death type of thing. But as far as them being put together as a tag team, odd couple pairing, I see potential in that. I mean, they're both are getting better. Well, I wouldn't say that Sheamus didn't know how to talk, but Cesaro had that against him for a while, and now he's better on the mic. And I just think that it'd be good for some backstage segments, and just like, I think they're trying to recapture that Team Hell No magic with these guys. And I'm willing to sit down and watch that. But, eventually, they're going to go their separate ways. But they're also trying to, what's this thing with Daniel Bryan trying to train him to SmackDown or whatever.
Yeah.
So, that could happen too. So I'm just going to, like I said, just like with everything else, I'm just going to let it play out for a little bit and see what goes on with that. But the match was good,
Until the finish, which was the most aggravating, questionable thing on the show.
Yeah, if I can just add one other thing, I think that what would have been the better way to pay it off on Monday night, it would have been better if they had come down and either Sheamus or Cesaro had said, all right, you've had the match stopped due to a medical stoppage. All right, well then put us in a match where you can't stop it due to medical stoppage because no one else is in there. Put us in a Hell in a Cell match. That would have been a much better way to finish this off, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, because that would have set up Hell in a Cell, the first of the Hell in a Cell matches on the show, which would have made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's doing poorly to this segment might also be due to another thing. How many of you know that Dewey Foley is now on the creative team?
Yeah. I knew that.
They're not.
Yeah, Dewey Foley is now on the WWE creative team. And, you have to wonder if this wasn't a segment that was partially written by him. And that's why Mick is reacting so poorly to this. He's in a situation right now where he's trying to help out his family to the best of his ability because, he's older, he's had serious brain damage from getting hit in the head with a chair multiple times. All those sacrifices that he made in the ring are now catching up to him. So he wants to make sure that his kids at least have something.
Mm-hmm.
And both Dewey and Noel are going into WWE. And, the reaction has been mixed to poor, to say the least, from the reactions that the fans have had. They're not sure which segments Dewey's writing, and Noel has the baggage known as Frank the Clown as her boyfriend. So that's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, they also did the reality show known as Holy Foley. And I have not seen that, but I've heard that basically people have been saying, kill it with fire. It's the only way to make sure.
Yeah. Fuck the torpedoes. Kill it with napalm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have any of you watched Holy Foley?
No, negative.
Not at all. I had
It looks
zero
awful.
interest.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Nose across
All right,
the board.
Well, Pam.
I think like the thing here to say is that why would we want to watch it? Like it's Mick Foley and his family, and I mean it's just I don't think it's that compelling.
For people who are really obsessed with Christmas.
Yeah, I just
It's very
I really don't see the point, and I feel like the more and more that I watch Raw, which I still don't understand why I'm even still watching Raw, but the more and more that I watch Raw, the more and more I feel like that they only brought him in for two reasons. One is the nostalgia pop of it being Nick McFoley, the other being to promote a reality show on the network, which feels like a really cheap thing to do.
Yeah, because they needed something because Total Divas is wrapping up their run, and for the man who has to edit that entire show because of the situation going on with Paige and all this other stuff, and then you have Total Bellas that's coming up, and then you have this Holy Foley. I'm sure I'm not saying it right, but
more like holy fuckballs, this is bad. That's the better way to put it.
well, you know,
One more thing.
Sure.
One more thing real fast is that WWE, I will say, I think is smarter than we give them credit for sometimes. So, and also Foley has been portrayed in literally everything that he's done so far is remarkably unlikable. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was part of some grand plan, especially because Foley is tied to Stephanie. Now, with that being said, maybe that's just hopeful optimism on my part, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is part of something bigger. I remember a lot of us were talking about how Jericho was really unlikable at the tail end of his face run, and how that potentially could have been just a segue, per se, to when he went heel, which was fantastic. So,
thanks for mentioning Mr. Midlife, Rookie, because that's our next segment. Chris Jericho and Mr. Midlife had a match with the other person that I have a dislikement towards, Sami Zayn. No, it's not a hatred, it's a dislikement. I think he is probably one of the top 5 best in-ring workers in the company, but I hate his character. This match was awful, honestly. I could not get into the match at all, and I'm really, really surprised that yet again that Sami is having trouble with a ring worker that is not as good as Chris Jericho is, because he's 45 years old and is clearly, in the breaking down stage of the wrestling career, and he's trying to wrestle like he's 25 years old. Chris, you worked for War. You worked for Junichiro Tenaru. Be grumpy. Be old. Doing that all right with the mic stuff, but the in-ring stuff needs to follow with that. More brawling, more punches, less of this flippy stuff that you were doing when you were 25. That would have made the match so much better, but instead he's trying to keep up with Zayn, who's 10, 15 years younger than he is.
Yeah, about 15
and
years ago, yeah.
And it just didn't work. And Sami, I've noticed, has had trouble with these kind of workers before. I understand it is almost impossible to get a 4-star match out of Titus O'Neil, but still, you're supposed to be this great in-ring worker, and yet you're having trouble with Jericho now. And the only matches that you seem to have had good chemistry with have been with Cesaro and Kevin Owens, 2 workers who are equal to you in terms of ring skill. So, let's start off with Kevin. What were your thoughts on this match?
Not so good. I mean, I like Jericho. The work rate is not what it once was, obviously, and I just knew what was going to happen going in. Sami Zayn's jobber to the stars right now, so I just had no interest in the match, and it was just just to fill up some time. I was doing other things while that match was on, so I didn't really pay attention, to be honest with you guys.
Okay.
We don't blame you.
We don't blame you at all.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris, what are your thoughts on the match?
This was the match that was honestly the most predictable on the card, like Kevin said. I said this when Jericho had a match with, I think it was Neville, it was possibly with Neville a few months ago, and it is that at his age right now, Jericho is working so slow that people who are used to working at top speed, in most of their matches because they're working with people who are of the same endurance and stamina as them. Like people like Neville and, in this case, Sami Zayn are having to work at half speed in order to make sure that Jericho still looks passable in the ring. And it's only to their detriment because Sami looked like crap in this match, Jericho looked like crap, and it was just a complete waste of our time. In a lot of ways, I'll be very happy when Jericho does finish up this run and heads back to doing whatever it is that he's going to do outside of the company because, storyline with Kevin Owens aside, some people like it. I personally am ambivalent about it, but I don't think that he's really adding much of anything of value right now. His work rate, like we've said, has just fallen off so drastically, and it's not really going to help anybody to put them in matches to beat him because it's like, oh well, he's Chris Jericho, he's 45 years old. How much of a challenge could it have been? And as far as Sami goes, I think that the reason why they're putting him in these kinds of matches and having him lose is because they're trying to catch lightning in a bottle at the second time in terms of creating a sympathetic underdog babyface because they see that he still gets good reactions from the crowd. They see that people like when he overcomes and makes his big comebacks, hits his high spots and wins matches. But this was not a case where that did anything for him. It didn't build any sympathy for Sami to lose to Jericho. It just made him look bad because it's like, why would somebody of Sami Zayn's caliber of wrestler lose to Chris Jericho, who's 45 years old and can barely run the ropes anymore? It isn't gonna work if that's the kind of match that they're having him lose. If he loses. If he loses the Money in the Bank match that he had with Kevin Owens, like that huge match that was supposed to be the blow off of their feud, if he loses that match, that builds him sympathy because it was an insanely good match. But this match, this doesn't do anything for Sami's career except to set him back.
Yeah, Haruki, what were your thoughts on the match?
To be honest, I didn't think it was awful. I thought it was just okay. I would say it's pretty standard fare in terms of a Jericho WWE match now. The two tornado DDT spots were bad, but aside from that, everything was just meh. I didn't hate it per se. What I will say though is that despite his maybe in-ring work rate maybe going down a little bit, Jericho remains still one of my favorite parts of the show. The more I honestly ingest wrestling, the less it almost, especially with WWE, the less it becomes about the in-ring work for me because a lot of the stuff is kind of standard fare. And the more it becomes about the stuff that you hear outside. And when Jericho is calling Tom Phillips every name under the sun, including ones that make no sense like Felipe and stuff like this, it's fantastic. And I thought that this was actually a good opportunity. Call me duped by this, but I thought that this would be a good opportunity for Jericho to beat the stepping stone to Kevin Owens and get back to him. Because Jericho was the best friend and whatnot. And suddenly you have, the main event program with some backstory to it. So that's what I was hopeful for, but Jericho did get his win back here, and he remains still a top piece in the company, let's say. So with that being said, I still remain – the match itself was, forgettable and whatnot, but I remain happy with Jericho's performance. I think with Zayn, it's just he's pretty much stagnant right now. He needs another guy to get into a long-term feud with before he can maybe take the next step, and that's about all, I suppose.
I mean, he's a top piece, but he's basically a 45-year-old fruitcake that you chuck in the neighbor's mailbox.
With that being said, though, he still remains one of the top promos in the company. So, and he's probably honestly one of the people I look forward to seeing most at a Monday Night Raw. But I look forward to seeing him more on Raw than I do on a pay-per-view. So,
quick question, guys.
I mean,
who would you put Sami Zayn in a program with right now?
That's really tough, actually, because of who they're trying to build. Like, I would immediately, before SummerSlam, I would have immediately said put him in a program with Seth Rollins because the two of them could put on amazing matches together, and I think that their character dynamics would work well against each other if you could put them in a long-term match together. But with Seth now being turned face, it's hard to say because you don't really have many people that Zayn can work well opposite of. The only other person that immediately comes to mind would be if they brought back Neville and brought him back as a heel. Like they have them recreate portions of their feud from NXT, because those matches were fantastic, and I'm sure that they could redo those for the main roster crowd. But I don't know otherwise other than those two.
I have a wild card pick. Braun Strowman.
Really?
Yeah.
You just want Sami to die.
Well, he wouldn't be up. Well, I think he would be, because he's been, they've been feeding him jobbers, but obviously he's not going to go out like a jobber, and he does a really good job of selling. So, I just felt like have Braun Strowman bounce him around and, give him a couple of tries to kind of, maybe knock him down, and he'd probably not be able to get him off his feet till maybe the second match or whatever, and then he finally beats this guy. But like, who are they going to feed Braun Strowman to? So I was just thinking about that. That probably helped get him over. Like when Del Rio beat the Big Show back in the day. That was a pretty little good program. They'll get him to that babyface level. But anyways, sorry.
No, that actually makes a little bit of sense now that you explain it like that, yeah.
As like the kind of middle ground there, he's stuck in a program with Roman Reigns right now, but I feel like Rusev would be another good partner.
Yeah.
Just because, again, he's kind of like the underdog in that thing. I actually love the Strowman idea, too, because Strowman eventually needs to go somewhere. He needs to have that transition from jobbers to legitimate player, and I feel like that'd be a really good bridge.
Yeah, because Sin Cara is not really much of a legitimate player to use as a transition, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, my thought process, I like the Neville idea, but I would like the alignments to be reversed, because Neville is more sympathetic as a face, and this Sami Zayn character is not working out as a face to me right now, and has not worked since he arrived in NXT. He reminds me so much of a hipster version of The Miz, except he's actually unlikable. Whereas The Miz has sympathy for me because he's going up against the scourge known as Dolph Ziggler.
Oh, boy.
Turn Sami heel, make him this ultimate egomaniac who's like all about him. He's already doing that in his promos. And he's already started harassing people in backstage segments, from trying to usurp the heel throne that was formerly occupied by Seth Rollins. We'll get to him later. And trying to interfere with this universe. Yeah? What?
I said just prove Kevin Owens right. What he was saying all along about this guy.
Yeah. I mean, why is he harassing Kevin Owens about his championship win, apart from the fact that Triple H pedigreed Rollins to China?
Yeah.
That's the only thing that he got the championship belt. Now stop complaining, go off and do your own stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And get yourself a championship opportunity.
Yeah. Earn it, kid.
Yeah. He never earns it. He always complains. He always whines. He's done it since his NXT days. If I don't get this championship opportunity, I'm leaving NXT forever and going to hide in my treehouse until Triple H calls me to make the main roster.
Oh, God.
He should be in the Best of 7 series too. I would like to see him in the Best of 7 series with somebody, maybe like a Neville. That would be nice.
As long as Neville keeps being face and Sami is heel, I would be fine with it. The Strowman idea is kind of cool too, because Strowman murder Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's a really good seller too, man.
Yeah. He does the ragdoll infinitely better than Dolph Ziggler ever will. Dolph could take a few lessons from Sami about that.
So anyway, speaking of selling, our next match was weird. Apparently, Charlotte was the super heroic babyface who never sold anything against the two diabolical heels, Bayley and Sasha Banks, for 15 minutes and 28 seconds. I saw the match because, what was this? How was this booked so poorly?
God.
Bayley was hardly in the match. Sasha's getting chucked around like a ragdoll and notes she has a back issue that she's been dealing with for the last several months. And Charlotte is just this super baby face. I'm like, am I watching the right match?
Never mind.
Charlotte is doing babyface transition spots, And she's apparently the heel.
Yeah, never mind the fact that as the heel, she also has a lackey out there who could have been involved in the whole match and yet wasn't for no reason whatsoever.
And also, it's a triple threat match, so it doesn't matter because it's no DQ in a triple threat.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, what are your thoughts on this match, Chris?
I mean, Jared Link said it best in the live thread when the pay-per-view was actually on. This was a 2-on-1 handicap match that Charlotte won. You want to talk about someone who's getting booked to the moon, who is being booked as the most dominant person in their division? People make that crack at Roman Reigns all the time. Look no further than Charlotte as that person, because she has been booked as the ultra dominant force to be reckoned with, even since she was still running with her dad, and her dad was cheating for her. Charlotte was still being booked as the most powerful force, and this I just felt was to the benefit of nobody. This whole match, this triple threat program, nobody was helped by this. It's clear that it was clear to me when it was a one-on-one match that Charlotte was going to lose, when it was one-on-one Charlotte versus Sasha. But as soon as Bayley got into the mix, and as soon as it became a possibility of it being a triple threat, I knew Charlotte was going to win, because it didn't make any sense to have Charlotte lose in a triple threat if they want her to be viewed as a dominant champion. The only problem is that your heel can't be viewed as a dominant champion as a cheating chicken shit heel. And that's the character that Charlotte portrays on the mic and in running with Dana Brooke. But then in the ring, she's just this monster, and nothing makes sense here. I don't even really have accurate words that I can say about this, because none of this makes any sense to me. I'm just completely at a loss.
Yes, we're making the earnings of that title the confusion of champions there.
Yeah.
Okay, Haruki, what are your thoughts on this match?
Good question. I thought that the in-ring work I thought was fine. I didn't mind it. Even the finish I didn't mind that much. The match in of itself I didn't think was anything too bad per se. I guess I'm pretty indifferent about all of it. As for my thoughts about the individual pieces right now, Charlotte is actually absolutely booked insanely, and I'm a big defender of hers. I think she's done a really good job since she's come to the main roster. I think in general she's kind of forgotten about when it comes to the Four Horsewomen, but she has more than held her own. I think she's been improving on the mic. I think in the ring she puts on some memorable performances. So I'm a fan. But with that being said, it's been quite a stretch for her, hasn't it been? So I couldn't believe when she won the title back off Sasha at SummerSlam. And if we're to believe what's true about Sasha needing maybe a little bit of time off, then she'll probably be regaining it soon. But when it comes to Sasha, I'm not a fan. I find her current character to be really unlikable. When she's out here saying that that Charlotte was only born because of a one-night stand, I just can't get behind that person being a good person. So, and then when it comes to Bayley, they really rushed her character to prominence on the main roster. Part of what I really liked about her NXT run was just the development and how it all panned together. She was losing a lot of matches, and where she came from the girl that's being berated by Summer Rae and that was wearing cat shirts and backstage to the NXT Women's Champion, I thought was really probably one of my favorite things about NXT. But then on the main roster, she's in there, and then boom, a month later, she's fighting for the championship, which I guess you could see as continuation. I'm babbling on too much about this. The match I thought was okay. Where it goes from here, I have no idea, but
yeah.
It is good that you mentioned Summer Rae, though, Haruki, because she needs to come back soon. I think that they should put Bayley in a program with Summer Rae to help that character development again, like it was in NXT. That would be the best thing for her, I think.
Yeah, but unfortunately Summer's injured right now, so
yeah,
we'll have to wait a little bit on that one.
Unfortunately.
So, Kevin, what were your thoughts on this strange match?
I didn't like the finish on it. I think it was a pretty good match. Charlotte is absolutely amazing. I'm a huge fan. Needless to say, when she's in the ring, she just the other females just doesn't really match up. Like, you don't believe that they could actually beat her up. Like, you know, I feel like I've been seeing it from before. I want for her to lose. I was happy that she won the belt back, but for her to lose, it's going to take someone that matches up with her. It's going to take like a Nia Jax or something to make it believable, and then she can't. She's not the person to give Sasha Banks the rub to get her to the next level. Charlotte's going to have to lose to a Nia Jax, and Sasha Banks is going to have to, chop down somebody like a Nia Jax to get that sympathy, to get a run that means something, because I just don't think that they're the right dance partners. And Bayley, I agree. Bayley doesn't have any mic skills. She has crazy charisma, as with Sasha Banks, but Sasha Banks has negative mic skills, none whatsoever. She doesn't have that charisma, She has good ring work, but it's been really sloppy since she's got up to the main roster, and I just think she's just trying to do so many spots that are dangerous, and it's having a negative impact on her career, and it's having a negative impact on the people who she has good matches with the Baileys and the Charlottes, and you put them in the ring at the same time, you think everything's gonna go well, and it didn't. A lot of missed spots, like, could have been a really good match. Like, I felt like the match should have been over when she hit the moonsault on the two of them. Like, she should have just got three count on that, not some punch in the stomach and then you just roll her up for the pin. Like, come on, like, But that's my opinion. Really good match. That was my favorite spot. I never really saw that before. A moonsault on the two people, perfectly executed. She should have got the win on that to make her look strong. That's just me.
Charlotte right now, to me, is reminding me of a combination of things. Diesel's 1995 championship run, which was the lowest drawing house show run ever. Triple H's Reign of Terror. Ric Flair's 700 and some day reign as NWA heavyweight champion when they lost a bunch of guys around them due to injury. And it's all wrapped up into one character with this sidekick, Dana Brooks, and focusing on the horsewomen instead of developing anybody else on that division. Because one of the things that was pointed out to me about the two women's divisions is that they're not paying attention to any of the past horsewomen things on SmackDown.
Nope.
As a person, instead of, oh, look, it's one of the horsewomen, the saviors of women's wrestling. Whereas Raw, they're doing the whole, oh, it's a horsewomen match, get excited, buy your tickets, buy your t-shirts, It feels like they're forcing this down our throats way too much, and they're not letting the division develop as a whole. It's just basically these three pieces and Dana Brooks over here. And if rumors are to be believed, they want Dana Brooks as one of the top faces in the women's division.
Which makes no sense. But you know why that this is developing like this and why they're not duplicating that on SmackDown is because Ryan Ward, who writes for SmackDown, he wrote the NXT stuff that developed the horsewomen that made them into the forces that they are. So, in having him now on SmackDown, he's not going to want to repeat what he did in NXT. So he's writing new stuff, which makes sense.
Yeah, and this new stuff is actually, I think, a lot better than the NXT stuff because it's not forcing me to like Bayley. It's not forcing me to like Sasha Banks. And like Kevin and Haruki said, they don't really like... Because Sasha Banks is much better as a heel character. She does not have any face mannerisms at all during her speech. She's just the aggravating wrestler who has self-confidence issues, who wants to be the very best and puts all of this like bedazzled glitter and stuff on her to show that, oh, she's the boss.
Yeah, she doesn't look like a boss.
Yeah.
It's a heel character,
Mm-hmm.
The boss is, it's just, I'm sorry.
That's fine. She's the boss. But that's a
Yeah.
heel character, as you said.
Yeah, it's a heel character. You know, I can't want you to win the big one. You're supposed to win the big one. Like, you know, you're supposed to carry yourself as such. Like, you know, that's just me though.
Yeah.
I agree.
So basically, when do you think Charlotte drops the belt?
It's a toss-up right now. I mean, they could have her drop it to Dana Brooke at Hell in a Cell, or they could wait until Survivor Series. But I mean, there's also the option just really like drawing things out for a while until Nia Jax is ready, which would probably not be until the Rumble. But either way, you know, regardless of when it happens, I don't think that's going to change much. The Raw Women's division is still stagnant, and even if the title does change hands, it doesn't feel like there's much progression. And just to address the other thing you said, Fizzy, trying to make Dana Brooke as a top face for anything is a terrible idea, because she does not look like a face. She does not carry herself like a face. She doesn't have the mic skills necessary to be a face. And there's nothing about her that even remotely suggests that she should be considered a likable character. There's nothing that she brings to the table. Never mind the fact that she's also just horrific in the ring still right now. There's nothing about her character or her ring work that screams babyface to me, or to most anybody else who's observant.
Mm-hmm. But we're not dealing with observant people here.
This is true. WWE Creative has never really shown themselves to be observant.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm actually a fan of Dana Brooke. I think she's a nice young talent. I think she's a lot of fun as a heel when she's like doing remixes on people's heads when she's patting them and stuff.
Yeah.
I think she has nice wrinkles. She's a good prospect, but I think the time's a little too soon. My hunch for if I had to decide what they would do from here is I think they're going to take the title off Charlotte sooner rather than later, maybe at Hell in a Cell. And they'll run the program of Charlotte and Dana next, and then they'll have Sasha and I guess Bayley for the title. So then you have the two stories going on there. That would be my hunch, but I'm not sure.
Oh God, it's way too soon to do a horsewoman feud between Sasha and Bayley.
It is. That's why I said that having Summer Rae come back to face Bayley whenever she's ready to, I think that's the right way to build Bayley up, because if you have Sasha win the title and then have her enter a program with Bayley, that's just going to be disastrous for Bayley's character. It's too much too fast.
Yeah. Whereas, like, I know that we're keep comparing things to Raw and SmackDown, but No Mercy, the No Mercy match looks much better than whatever they're planning at Hell in a Cell.
Mm-hmm.
He and Pixie Hulk,
Yeah,
who are just doing lights out, wonderful work on this program. And then you also have the undercard match, a second women's match.
Mm-hmm.
Unheard of in WWE. A second women's match possibly happening with Carmella versus Nikki Bella in a possible no DQ match.
Which would be incredible. I think that'll do wonders for both of them.
Yeah.
Let me say, too, is that SmackDown's... Sorry, my bad.
Go ahead.
Okay, I think SmackDown... Okay, you know what? I lost out. There goes the cookies and there goes the 50 points. But I think... SmackDown, what is really impressive is they found these NXT women that were honestly kind of green, whether they could make the transition was a little bit not, and they elevated them immediately. Right off the bat, they were players in that six-pack challenge,
Right.
and now they're getting their own feuds with the established veterans. So, yeah, but so there's the obligatory SmackDown is good shill. But, yeah, so that's awesome. Honestly, I think that what they're doing is Nia Jax was good. I think Alicia Fox deserves a world of credit for how she elevated Jax in the pre-show. And I think eventually she'll be ready to make that step. But yeah, as for right now, there's some promising young talent there.
Just kind of there.
Yeah.
So, anyway, the next segment is, of course, I really cheered about this match. This actually was my favorite match on the card. Roman Reigns versus Rusev. Heard aftershocks and tremors in the state of Mississippi. That was because Tanya Rogers was cheering to epic levels the fact that her boy Roman Reigns won the United States Championship from Rusev in a really good match. And so Roman is now the United States Champion. Could the people stop screaming from the towers saying that, oh, Roman's going back in the main event scene? Because he doesn't seem to be going back into the main event scene anytime soon if he has this championship.
Yeah, they'll never stop screaming that, but well, I gave up on expecting anything different long ago.
So what are your thoughts on the match, Chris?
The match I thought was fantastic. I expected great things from this match, and I received everything that I expected, with a couple of disappointments. You know, the one thing that I will say that I've said for, as you know, anybody who reads the comment section knows, I am sick to death of Rusev's gimmick. I am sick to death of his work right now. And I think that he needs a reboot because the stupid Americans, America sucks, I hate you all, and I have a hot wife is nothing to me. There's no substance to that to me. And I think that for somebody who, when he came in, was portrayed as this insane monster heel that, you know, went on an undefeated run for over a year, if they can get back to that and drop this whole, you know, I'm a foreigner and I hate America bit, it'll be so much better, at least for me, because I'm just done with that aspect of things, and that's part of that is Lana and Lana's involvement. You know, I get, they're married. It makes sense to have them in a program together. I mean, that's been the case since they broke up the horrible love quadrangle from last summer with the two of them and Ziggler and Summer Rae. You know, it makes sense to pull them apart at this point because Rusev doesn't need Lana on the outside distracting the refs and pulling the refs out of the ring. That just detracts from his aura as a monster heel in many ways. Having those kinds of like distraction finishes, I get that, that's what heels do, but Rusev doesn't need that. Rusev looks imposing enough as it is that he shouldn't need to have a manager on the outside helping him win. That's just not the way that his things should be conducted. But other than that aspect of things, I got a phenomenal match, and I really enjoyed it. I'm really glad that Roman won the title. Going forward, though, is really going to be the question mark because, you know, we've had this discussion all week on the site about what the booking is going to be for Roman, if he's going to be being booked as, you know, Superman 2.0 for the third time in a row now. And as a fan of him, I really hope that they don't continue doing that because that's not to his benefit. It's not to anybody's benefit. Nobody wants to see Roman getting beaten up in matches and then coming back to win. Roman should be dominant out the gate in every single match that he's in. And that's the way that it should be in, regardless of his opponent. Roman is a 6'4", 6'5", 265-pound Samoan badass who comes to the ring and could bowl through anybody who's in front of him, and they should make him look that way too. They should make him look like the tough guy that he is. And I really, really hope that they do that going forward because he doesn't need the Daniel Bryan treatment. He doesn't need the Sami Zayn treatment. He doesn't need any of that. He needs to be booked like a badass, and he needs to be dominant.
So what you're saying is that they should turn Roman heel.
Yes, yes. For the love of God, but we know that that's not going to happen. So, fuck you, Vince McMahon. But that's neither here nor there.
Okay, so Kevin, what's your thoughts on this match?
That was a pretty good match. I liked it as well. Good work rate from the two guys. As far as Roman Reigns goes, I'm not the huge Roman Reigns fans. I get it. I think him winning the title was, I saw that coming. I think it's a good spot for him. And I think he should do the open challenge gimmick and just go over everybody in convincing fashion, and that'll get him arrogant, and eventually somebody else could get the rub, the Sami Zayns or the Cesaros or whoever they decide to have that belt afterwards. And Roman could go back to the main event scene where everybody knows he belongs, but having earned it by spending some time in the mid card and developing a character that's worthy of being in the main event.
I mean, I think they should just go full Roman Emperor with Roman Reigns at this point. They're doing the Roman Empire thing with the T-shirts, so like, have him have a throne. Change up his gear a little bit.
I said this before too. Roman by himself doesn't work. Roman with people works. Like even that little brief time when he was with the Usos, that worked. Like him and the Shield, obviously. He just needs other people around him that can handle some of the mic work and just take some of the heat off of him. That's just me.
I fantasy booked Roman being joined by sidekick Samoa Joe after WrestleMania, after he beat Triple H. That would have been fantastic because Joe can work equally as strong as Roman and can also do a lot of good talking.
Right. That's a good idea. With that, he needs somebody that could, watch his back and vice versa. Not like a Kevin Owens and Jericho dynamic, but, just two guys that, you would expect a Samoa Joe to run in for him and vice versa.
Yeah. Somebody who's also not Dean Ambrose.
Yeah. That didn't really work out too well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Hiroki, what are your thoughts on this match?
I thought the match was very, very good. Both guys have just honestly a great work rate for the big man. They understand how to get the most out of what they do, I think, and so it's really, really good stuff. Roman in the mid card is interesting. It really is. I know Kevin insisted that even though he is the United States champion, that he would still be involved in those main event type matches. But with that being said, I think that it's definitely a nice wrinkle for him right now, and I love the idea that Kevin had of him just convincingly winning open challenge matches. Like people come in, like guys that are like mid-card-ish talent, and they just get mowed through like that because it's a great way to kind of build him up and then kind of change his character. I don't think that they're at the point of no return yet for him in terms of turning heel. I think that it's still a possibility. But with that being said, I think that at least in this iteration of his time, is it right to call it an iteration? I'm going to go with it anyway.
Yeah.
He's going to be doing the same kind of thing that we've been seeing, except for just, albeit in a different venue. And I think that that's fresh, and that's all you can really ask for in wrestling to start out. So.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, the thing is Roman, I actually run, but I also understand that a heel run would be good, but even if he does a heel run, I wouldn't consider him a heel because he'd probably be going up against people I'm more aggravated and annoyed with on this roster. But I think the Roman Emperor gimmick would be perfect for Roman. Just have him be this, you're already doing the Roman Empire thing, as I said before. Just go full on Roman Emperor, have him do the United States Championship Challenge, and have him defeat all of his opponents like in a Roman Coliseum. Because he's like a Roman gladiator to me.
That would be fantastic. I'd be all in for that.
Yeah. As for Rusev and Lana, I mean, I think Rusev should go solo at this point, but they're going to try and keep him and Lana together at this in storyline because they are in a relationship now. And we just have to wait and see where they go with this. Do they do another breakup with Rusev and Lana, and Rusev goes on his own and just tries to destroy everything?
Can I say something real fast? Isn't Lana training?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, she was in that pre-show match at Mania, and I don't see why they wouldn't just have it be that she says to Rusev, I need to go and claim my own glory.
Yeah,
and join the Raw Women's division.
Like, do you see a Sable Mark Mara-esque ankle coming along, or I kind of that's the only way I see them breaking up and it being legitimate, and maybe down the line they go back together. He runs in to save her from somebody or something, but she's training to wrestle though, right? She's going to be in the ring sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean,
she already was.
Yeah, okay. She was in that Mania pre-show match. She's done some house show matches, so there's no. I mean, she's still pretty green by all accounts. But
that's what I mean, though. Yeah.
there's nothing saying that she can't go out and have, like, I mean, even, you know, going back to what we were saying about the triple threat, there's nothing saying that she couldn't go and have a program with Bailey.
Right.
You know, because Lana is an arrogant heel. There's nothing saying that she couldn't go into a program with Bailey and try and bring Bailey down a peg or two.
What do you think they're gonna do with All Red Everything when she comes back?
Well, she's on
gonna be
SmackDown.
Oh yeah, you're right. She's a SmackDown lady. You're right.
So
And I
the
don't
question.
think she's all red. I don't think she's all red anymore.
Well, they showed the
They
video that she like just is going back and forth between the red and the black, pretty quickly somehow. So
Is that supposed to be bad for your health? Like constantly
Yes.
changing?
oh yeah, she's probably going to be wearing wigs within the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Not to mention all the spray tanning.
Yeah, that too. Wigs and skin cancer. That is your future, Eva Marie.
So we had this match, which was fantastic, and I felt it was the main event. But the actual main event was a 25-minute-long slog with Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins.
Hmm.
I had to once again lift my embargo because I'm doing these shows and watch another Rollins match.
There we go.
And it was as painful as usual. He's got no psychology. His work rate is good for the indies, but not good for main roster WWE. And oh god, hearing him talk in
It's on the
public,
list.
We're just
Yes,
running down the list.
He's been on the list for ages.
I know you're
He's
reading
on-
off your
he's
Seth
on the-
Rollins list. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh god. But unfortunately, Kevin Owens wasn't much better. He was doing his indie-rific spot fest style matches that he did in the independent scene. There really wasn't any story here apart from the fact that KO is best friends with Chris Jericho. Look at him. He's best friends with the guy. And apparently he becomes the fifth most important person in the match besides Jericho, Rollins, Stephanie, and Mick Foley. He's just the guy that holds up the weird demon-looking belt. I mean, did they raise that thing out of the 7 levels of hell or something? Because
Yes.
that's something
Yes.
I would expect that somebody who's a demon to be carrying that belt, not...
Well, as we all know, a demon was carrying that belt until Rollins injured him. But
Yeah.
oh god.
God. So let's get our thoughts on this main event. Let's start with you, Haruki.
I liked it. I didn't think it was that bad. I like Seth Rollins. I'm really glad to see that he turned babyface because that was something that I'd been wishing for a while now. Although maybe a little disappointing considering the people involved, but I think they're all fantastic. I don't necessarily like that they're going the paper champion route right now for Owens, but with that being said, that's what Rollins was, like a year ago. So if I'm being hopeful here, it's that he kind of starts off that way, but maybe when he goes to his second run, he'll be the plucky, the tweener or whatever that doesn't need the assistance per se. I think he continues to do good work on the mic. Rollins, I don't think is bad on the mic, and I enjoy his matches. So different strokes right there. All in all, I think for a main event match, it was perfectly meh. But I didn't mind it. I'm interested to see where they go in Hell in a Cell. What happens there?
Okay, Chris, what are your thoughts on this match?
I have to look at this in two different ways. Looking at this match by itself in an echo chamber, I thought the match was pretty good. I find it kind of ironic that Rollins was the one that got injured this time around rather than Rollins doing the injuring, but that's besides the point. But I thought it was a fairly good match. The guys got their spots in. They did some impressive maneuvers. Jericho coming in to do the interference angle at the end. I mean, I expected an interference angle, so in that regard, I was fulfilled in that way. So I thought that it fit for what we expect out of a Kevin Owens heel championship run. However, we can't look at this match solely in an echo chamber because we have to remember back to SummerSlam and Triple H showing up and the nonsense that happened in that finish. And looking at that, the fact that that was not paid off in this match is a real misstep on Raw's part, I feel, because we still don't know why Triple H is turning his back on Rollins and why he's making these efforts towards putting Owens in the top spot instead and knocking Rollins down. We don't know if Foley or Stephanie are involved in that scheme or not. And in the end, it still keeps Kevin Owens as, like you said, a bit player in this championship run where he's the champion. But he's not the story. The story is about Triple H and Stephanie and Mick and Rollins. And meanwhile, Kevin Owens is just sitting there spinning his heels while he's holding the belt, and both he and the belt are being devalued by that. So, in the end, I appreciate the match for what it was, but I don't appreciate the storyline implications that match had. And I wish that they had done a better job of working that into the framework that was already in existence.
Yeah. Captain, what was your thoughts on the match?
Well, I did like the match. Let me say one thing, though. Last time I was on here, I did call the Seth Rollins, Finn Balor SummerSlam thing. I did not foresee him getting injured, though. But I will say that it was a good match. Great work rate. Kevin Owens, the thing I agree with what the gentleman just said is that the storyline didn't work, didn't do it for me. These guys to me don't really have any legitimate beef. Like Seth Rollins' heat was with Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns is now in a program with Rusev now, so that leaves no heat between Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. I think the way they should have went with it is to help him be a babyface, is to not give him a title shot right away, and they did. But again, nobody foresaw the injury coming, so they're booking on the fly. And also, these injuries that are happening with Seth Rollins are accidents. What Kevin Owens did to him was an accident. These things happen. I don't think these guys are out there intentionally trying to hurt one another. These things happen. So even though I'm trying to be sympathetic, but yeah, it happened with Seth Rollins more often than others. But again, these are accidents, and I don't think it's fair to call them out on that. These are accidents. Injuries happen, and it's part of the business. And I don't see how people don't really get at Kevin Owens for doing what he did. It could have been a lot worse than what happened. And but again, back to the storyline. Kevin Owens, he needs a credible opponent to make that title mean something. The damn thing was designed for Finn Balor to hold. And he's not there. So Triple H needs to answer some questions that that need to be answered. Why, what's going on, and the whole Raw thing is just in shambles now. I just think because of this whole Finn going down, they're just booking everything on the fly, and it's not really paying off the way it should be with these pay-per-views. So their first pay-per-view they're stumbling out the gate. Here goes my SmackDown comparison, where SmackDown seems to have it all together, and their pieces, and they're using their pieces very well. All right, that's it. That's my rant.
Well, that was a very good rant, but the thing is, what we mentioned about Seth Rollins injuring people is that these have been pretty serious injuries that have happened. It's not just minor stuff. John Cena could have had issues with his major issues with his nose if Rollins had hit him. I know it was an accident, but this started the chain that caused Cena to be out for the rest of the year, was the nose injury. And then the Sting thing was an accident. That was on the agent booking the spot. to do Seth doing a buckle bomb spot on a 56-year-old man.
But
now,
let me just say one.
the Finn.
Let me just say one thing real fast too with John Cena.
Sure.
Let's not forget that John Cena, for how many months when he had the U.S. title, was putting on, 20-minute to 30-minute matches with everybody up and down on the card, giving them at least 4-star matches, giving them some of these guys the best match they ever had on Raw, and how long, and he's been hurt. We all know he's been hurt, and he's been the man for how long, the body is breaking down on him, but you can't say that the nose set off things that are lingering. I mean, he's been working his ass off. Now it's time for him to take it easy. But Sting thing was an accident. John Cena was an accident. Finn Balor was an accident. What happened with his rib the other weekend, last weekend, was an accident. These things happened with Emma and her back. That was an accident. People just need to just really stop trying to, make it more than what it is. Missed spots happen all the time. Look at what happened with Cesaro. He almost killed himself.
Yeah. That spot was very, very.
And everybody does a suicide dive. These things happen. And it's always the simple things. Look at Neville, baseball slide. Misses WrestleMania off a baseball slide. These things happen, man, and it sucks when it does, but it happens. It's part of the business.
I think, but sure, go ahead, Herky.
Speaking about Neville, this is a weak segue, but Neville faced Jericho once. Anyway, one bit of continuity I was happy about was that they didn't break off Jericho and Owens right away.
Yeah.
That they remained friends, and that's actually better. That's a better relationship than a lot of baby faces have with one another, and I actually like that they instead of immediately Jericho playing up the jealous friend that his friend, he was actually a good friend. He stuck by his guy and was happy for him that he won the title. So
they got their back.
I think that the way that they're going to end up going with that, to be honest, just judging by what happened in the main event tag team match that they had to close out Raw, Owens is eventually just going to get sick and tired of Jericho being weak, and he's just going to say, I'm done with you, get out, and that's going to lead to when Jericho is going to challenge him. Because you could tell that one moment where Jericho went to go tag in Owens, and he basically crawled across the ring and was hiding, behind like bear hugging Kevin Owens' legs to try and hide from Cass. You could see the look on Kevin Owens' face, like, really, this is the shit I have to deal with. I think that's going to be the route they're going to go. Is that Jericho's just going to be more and more of a coward, and Owens is going to be like, no, you know what? No, I don't want to be dealing with this anymore. I'm done with you.
Did you guys saw when he threw his scarf on Raw? We told him
yeah.
the scarf.
Yeah.
He's just tossing behind him.
That was perfect.
But the thing is that Rollins is continuing to be pushed into this position given with all of the stuff that has happened to him over the last year and a half, and somebody else. To continue the point with Finn Balor, that spot should have gone off perfectly. These are guys that have done that spot hundreds of times before, but instead, this is by 10 feet, and Balor has to catch himself in his arm, which has had a history of issues, and to keep from breaking his neck. Otherwise, we'd be seeing Finney in a wheelchair instead of an arm issue. Now, to continue with the arm injury, they had to recently inject stem cells into Finn Balor's arm. Positive sign for recuperation of an arm injury. I know it's more common now than it was back in the day, but I
think that's to speed up the process is actually what that is.
Yeah.
Because having gone through reconstructive shoulder surgery myself, I can tell you it's not a fun process, and it's an extremely long process to have to fix that much damage to a shoulder after it's been dislocated. Because he basically did to himself in one spot what I did to myself over 7 years of chronic dislocation. He tore up all the ligaments and he separated his labrum, and they have to go in there. They basically have to anchor down the ligaments with plastic screws in order to get them to re-knit themselves together, and then they have to sew the labrum back together to make sure that the joint is still intact, and that takes that 6 to 8 month recovery time that they give for Balor is mostly physical therapy to get the shoulder back to the point where you can lift it above your head and not risk the entire thing just falling out underneath you. Yeah. So I understand why they might have done that to try and speed up the process, because I mean the guy doesn't, the guy's in his 30s.
Yeah, 35.
He doesn't have like a huge amount of time left in his career. And I know they want to get as much out of him as they can while they've got him. So I can't say I'm surprised that they did that, but I don't necessarily take it as a bad sign. I just think that they're trying to utilize the fact that they have the best doctors on the planet at their disposal.
Sure, but it's still concerning,
Yeah.
that okay, they've already, this one accidental spot cost WWE a lot of money.
Mm.
And
Same thing with
all
Stone
of
Cold,
that
man.
is sure, but Stone Cold had an injured neck, not an injured shoulder.
Yeah, but it was an accident. It was an accident. He's the biggest star in the company at the time, groomed, and he went down.
Sure, it was an accident. Yeah, sure, it was an accident, but WWE has now lost potentially up to $1 million in merch sales and other things because they had booked Finn Balor all in advance for all of these spots.
Mm-hmm.
Where Rollins is now down with a rib injury. We don't know how long he's going to be out. Probably he's going to be back at the next pay-per-view at Hell in a Cell. But now the doctors are saying try not to have him be going into excessive physical things. That's always a worrying sign.
Yeah, and he did a frog splash on that rib too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
I'm surprised it wasn't a broken rib.
Yeah, I thought it was broken.
Yeah.
Either way, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, the injury bug, as we all know, has been pretty terrible for the past year and a half to 2 years. So we can only hope that it decides to take a little bit of a vacation for the rest of 2016.
Hopefully Triple H pedigrees him all the way to Miramar. At least for me. Okay, so let's get our final thoughts in here and wrap this up. Kevin, what is your final thoughts on this show?
Clash of Champions, they could do a lot better. I just think, like I said, with the Finn Balor thing, it kind of threw everything into a frenzy on the Raw side of things, and they're just booking on the fly, and all the long-term plans that they had have gone to shit. So, better luck next year.
Yep. Okay, Haruki, what are your final thoughts?
Dumb gimmick pay-per-view, given that to fill up a car, they more or less need all the champions on there anyway. Good work rate, odd booking, might end up just being a transitional pay-per-view.
Okay, cool. Chris, what are your final thoughts?
Not a good first start for Raw on the pay-per-view side, especially in comparison to what SmackDown did. But I believe that turning the corner on some of these storylines hopefully will get them into a good groove going into Hell in a Cell. But we'll just have to hope for the best. And, maybe they'll come up with something good from some of these programs. We can only hope. And keep watching on Monday nights, I guess, for those of us that can tolerate it.
Raw is going through a really big transitional phase right now. They thought that they had their new era first champion in Finn Balor, but then that match happened with Seth Rollins and threw everything apart. Now they're booking on the fly with a champion that has basically not been booked very well for the last year, a guy who may or may not be able to make the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view with the rib injury, and a bunch of other stuff happening in the mid-cards. Now we have New Day versus possibly Cesaro Sheamus, and Sasha Banks versus Charlotte. Please don't do the match in the cell. Please don't do the match in the cell. I don't want Sasha Banks to jump 20 feet in the cell to do a toupee spot.
Nah, can't do that.
Can handle that.
Yeah, we don't need that. We do not need that.
Most they're going to do that midway through the cage spot, probably. You know, not
But
but not from the
regardless,
top.
you know, whatever reaction Swift had to that triple threat is going to be like 1,000 times worse when Charlotte versus Sasha happens in the cell.
Yeah, really.
Oh.
Tough time.
So
but,
this was, yeah, this is like right now. Raw is struggling to gain any form of momentum. They've got some decent matches, but just nothing going on the creative side of things. And we'll see what happens when Hell in a Cell hits. SmackDown is obviously going to have their show first, which is No Mercy. And I believe Live After SmackDown Live will be covering that show. So we'll see you at Hell in a Cell. And hopefully this will be a much better pay-per-view than this show was.
I hope so, too.
Yeah.
We all hope so.
Yeah, we hope so. We pray. And this has been another edition of Cageside Speaks. My name is 14 Fitzpatrick, and we'll see you next time for the next edition of Speaks. Follow Cageside Seats on Twitter at Cageside Seats. Look on the website at cagesideseats.com, and the show will be posted then. And I'll also share it on my Twitter account at Fitzpatrick14, which I just set up for this very purpose. And we'll see you next time. And hopefully things will be better.
Peace, guys.
To the crowd.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time.